The alien academy stood high above the mountains, its tall silver towers shining under the twin suns. Students from many worlds gathered there, each one hoping to prove their strength and wisdom. But on this day, the lesson was not about numbers or history, it was about courage. The teacher, a tall alien with skin like stone, spoke with a voice that echoed across the hall. He told the class that each student must bring a predator to tomorrow's session. It was not just an assignment, it was a test of bravery, of control, of respect. The aliens in the class cheered and whispered with excitement. They came from species that had hunted predators for generations. They thought the task was easy for them. They laughed and showed their sharp teeth. Some bragged about which beast they would bring: a scaled hunter from the marshes, a fire-spitting crawler from the caves, a flying claw beast from the skies. Then their eyes turned to the human girl sitting quietly at the back. She had dark hair tied behind her head, her hands rested calmly on the table. She did not join the noise. She did not boast. She only listened. One alien leaned close to another and whispered, "The human cannot bring anything. She is weak. She will come with empty hands." Another laughed and said, "Maybe she will bring a house pet and call it a predator." Their voices were cruel, their laughter sharp. The teacher's gaze moved across the class and rested on the human. "Do you understand the task?" he asked, his voice heavy. The girl nodded once, calm and steady. "Yes, I understand," she said, her voice soft but clear. The aliens hissed and muttered. They wanted her to fail, to prove what they already believed, that humans did not belong in the academy. The bell rang. The students left in groups, their voices filled with pride and plans. But the human walked alone down the long steps of the academy. Outside, the world stretched wide. The forests were deep and dark. The air was heavy with the cries of wild creatures. She stood at the edge of the forest, her eyes tracing the shadows between the trees, her breath steady. She knew the task was not a simple test. It was a trial made to break her. But she also knew something the others did not. While the aliens hunted with weapons and numbers, humans carried another kind of strength: patience, courage, and a bond with living things. She stepped into the forest, her feet quiet on the soft earth. The branches moved above her and the air grew colder. She could hear the distant growl of predators, the rustle of unseen movement, the whisper of danger. For hours she walked deeper, her eyes alert, her senses sharp, until she found the signs she was looking for. Claw marks on trees, broken branches, tracks in the soil. She followed them, moving with care. Soon she saw them. Two small predator cubs, their fur dark and shining, their eyes glowing in the dim light. They growled softly, showing their small but sharp teeth, their tiny bodies strong and restless. She crouched low, her hands open. She did not show fear. She did not raise a weapon. She waited. The cubs sniffed the air. They stepped closer, their growls softer now. The girl reached into her bag and placed dried meat on the ground. The smell drifted through the air. The cubs sniffed, then ate quickly. She did not move. She let them come closer on their own. As the cubs finished, one step near her hand, she touched its fur gently, her heart calm, her breath steady. Soon the second cub joined, their growls turned to soft sounds, their small bodies pressed against her legs. She smiled, for she knew that trust was the first step. As she prepared to leave, she felt the air grow heavy behind her. The ground shook softly. A shadow moved among the trees, her eyes lights, fitted and saw a larger shape. A massive predator with eyes burning like fire. The mother. The cubs looked at her, then at their mother. The forest went silent. The girl did not move. The great beast stepped forward, its muscles tense, its claws digging into the earth. But instead of attacking, the mother sniffed the air and watched her cubs leaning against the human. The beast's eyes narrowed, but it did not strike. It only let out a low sound, a warning, a promise. The girl lowered her head slightly, not in fear, but in respect. She whispered softly, "I will keep them safe." For a long moment, predator and human stood in silence. Then the great beast turned and vanished back into the shadows. The girl rose, the cubs at her side. She placed them gently across her shoulders, their small claws gripping her clothing. They trusted her now. They belonged with her. When she returned to the academy the next day, the hall filled with gasps and cries. The aliens stared in disbelief. The human girl walked into the class with two predator cubs resting on her shoulders, their glowing eyes watching everyone. The teacher's mouth opened in shock. The alien students whispered, some with fear, some with anger, some with awe. The humans stood silently, the cubs calm at her side. She did not boast, she did not smile. She only waited, and in that silence, the class understood something. Humans were not what they had believed. The classroom buzzed with restless voices. Every alien student leaned forward, their eyes locked on the human girl who stood calmly with the two predator cubs on her shoulders. The cubs growled softly, their eyes glowing in the dim light, but they remained still, showing no sign of wild rage. The teacher slammed his heavy staff on the floor. The sound echoed like thunder. "Silence," he commanded, his voice shaking with disbelief. "How is this possible? No creature of the predator kind allows itself to be carried by prey." The students whispered, "Ill, outer, some in fear, some in anger." One tall alien shouted, "She cheated, she must have drugged them." Another hissed, "Humans are tricksters, they cannot tame true predators." But the cubs turned their heads and bared their teeth at the alien who mocked her. The growl was low, deep, and chilling. The alien stepped back in fear, the teacher's stone-like face twisted with doubt. He pointed at the girl. "Prove it. Command them. Show us that they obey you." His words were sharp, his tone full of suspicion. The girl slowly raised her hand, her palm open, her voice calm. "Sit," she whispered. The cubs leapt from her shoulders and landed on the floor, their claws scratching the surface. For a moment the room was frozen in silence, every eye fixed on the beasts. Then the cubs sat, side by side, their glowing eyes fixed only on her. Gasps filled the hall. The aliens could not believe it. Predators never obeyed commands, not even when chained, not even when beaten. But these cubs obeyed a simple human word. The teacher's hand trembled as he lowered his staff. This is not natural," he muttered. But the girl did not flinch. "They trust me," she said quietly, "and trust is stronger than chains." One alien, jealous and furious, stepped forward, his sharp claws clicking together. "Then let us test that trust," he hissed, his eyes burning with envy. He bent down and snapped his claws near the cubs, trying to frighten them. Suddenly the cubs leapt to their feet, growling louder, their teeth flashing, their small bodies ready to attack. The alien stumbled back, his arrogance broken. Fear filled his face. The girl raised her hand again, calm as ever. "Enough," she said, her voice like steady water. The cubs stopped at once, sitting again, their growls fading. The class froze. No one spoke. Even the teacher was silent. But deep in the silence, another sound began to rise. It was faint at first, like distant thunder. The windows of the academy trembled. The floor shook slightly. The cubs' ears lifted, their glowing eyes turning toward the forest outside. The teacher's face darkened. "No," he whispered, his voice heavy with dread. "It cannot be." The ground rumbled louder, the air filled with a deep roar that made every alien heart pound. The cubs answered with their own small growls, their tails twitching. The girl's eyes did not leave the window. She knew what was coming. She had seen it in the forest, felt its gaze, heard its low warning. The mother was here. Students screamed and rushed toward the doors. Panic filled the classroom, their proud voices now broken with terror. The teacher shouted for order, but his voice was drowned by the rising roar outside. The girl stood still, her hand resting gently on the cubs, her eyes calm, her breath steady. She did not move. Suddenly, the massive predator crashed through the outer gates of the academy, its eyes glowing like fire, its muscles rippling with raw power. Its roar shook the entire hall. The aliens fell to the ground, crying out in fear. Some begged for their lives. Others shouted that they were doomed. The teacher turned on the girl with rage and fear in his stone-like eyes. "You have brought destruction upon us all," he shouted. "Your foolishness will kill us." But the human did not answer, her gaze locked with the predator's burning eyes. The great beast stepped forward, claws tearing into the ground, its shadow filling the hall. The cubs whined softly but did not run. They pressed close to the girl's legs. The air grew heavy. Every breath in the room froze. In that moment, everyone thought the human girl would be torn apart, that the predator would strike and end her life before their eyes. But she did not step back. She did not show fear. Instead, she slowly lowered her head in respect, her voice a whisper. "I promise to keep them safe." The predator stopped, its eyes narrowed, its breath heavy. The silence was louder than thunder, and then, instead of attacking, the beast lowered its massive head. Its glowing eyes fixed only on the girl. The classroom went silent. Every alien heart froze. No one had ever seen such a thing before. The mother predator stood tall in the academy hall, its breath like thunder, its eyes burning bright. Every alien student crouched low, their bodies shaking. Fear filled the air like smoke. No one dared to move. Only the human girl stood still. The cubs pressed close against her legs, their soft growls echoing their mother's power. The teacher's stone face looked pale now, his staff shaking in his hand. "Human," he cried, his voice trembling. "Command it. Prove you control this beast, or we are all dead." The girl looked at him, then at the giant predator. She shook her head slightly. "I do not control her," she said softly. "She does not obey me. She chooses to trust me." The aliens hissed and muttered in panic. "Trust, foolish word," one shouted. "Predators kill, they do not trust." Another screamed, "She will be torn apart." But the girl slowly raised her hand, her palm open, her voice steady. "Stand down," she whispered. The cubs lowered themselves at once, curling at her feet, their glowing eyes calm. The mother predator tilted her head, her great body still, her claws digging into the ground. The room trembled, but she did not attack. The silence was broken by a voice full of jealousy. The tall alien who had mocked her before stepped forward. "This is a trick," he snarled. "Predators do not bow to prey. I will prove it." He grabbed a spear from the wall and thrust it toward one of the cubs. The mother predator roared so loud that the windows shattered. The cubs hissed and sprang to their feet. The alien froze, his weapon shaking, his eyes wide with terror. The girl moved faster than anyone expected. She stepped between the cub. Every eye in the room widened. The human had not only stopped the cubs, she had calmed the mother too. The teacher whispered in disbelief. "This is impossible. How can a human stand before death and not be crushed?" The girl's eyes never left the predator. "Because fear feeds them," she said, "but trust starves fear." The mother predator lowered her head, the great beast's nose almost touching the floor. Then slowly she nudged one of the cubs forward toward the girl, as if offering proof of her acceptance. Gasps filled the hall. Some aliens fell to their knees. Others whispered that no creature in history had ever shown loyalty to prey. The jealous alien screamed, "This cannot be! I will not accept this!" He lunged forward again, his claws flashing, but before he reached her, the cubs growled and snapped their jaws, forcing him back. This time the teacher raised his staff, his voice like a strike of lightning. "Enough," he shouted. "Do you not see what is before us? This is not weakness. This is power greater than any of you understand." The hall grew silent again. The mother predator stepped closer, her giant head level with the human girl's chest, her glowing eyes locked on hers. The girl did not blink. She placed her hand gently on the beast's head, her fingers brushing against its hot fur. The class gasped. The teacher's staff dropped from his hand. The predator closed its eyes. Not in rage, but in peace. Suspense filled the air, every heart in the room beating like a drum. Aliens realized this was no trick, no accident. This was something greater, something dangerous. The teacher spoke softly now, his voice heavy with awe. "Today, we have seen what no one believed. Predators bow to the human spirit, not through chains, not through force, but through respect." But in the back of the hall, shadows stirred, whispers rose. Not every alien was moved, Some were afraid, some were jealous, some already thinking of how dangerous humans might truly be. And outside the academy walls, the forest echoed with more roars, more shadows moving closer, as if the arrival of the mother predator had called others too. The girl stood calm, her hand still resting on the beast's head, her eyes filled with quiet fire. She whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning." The academy shook as another roar thundered across the valley. Dust fell from the high ceilings. The alien students clutched their seats, some trembling, some ready to flee, their voices cracked with fear. The mother predator stood calm before the human girl, her burning eyes steady. But outside, the forest answered her call. Shadows moved through the trees. More glowing eyes appeared, more heavy footsteps pressed into the earth. One alien shouted, "There are more! The whole pack is coming!" Panic spread. The students screamed. Their proud words now gone, they scrambled toward the exits. Desperate to escape, the teacher slammed his staff down, his stone face stern. "Sit," he ordered. "None of you will leave. If you run, you will only invite death. We must see this to the end." The human girl did not flinch. She stood at the center of the storm, the cubs pressed close against her legs, their small bodies tense, their ears sharp. She raised her eyes to the massive windows, watching as dark shapes moved closer and closer. The doors of the academy creaked, the walls shuddered, and then, with a crash, another predator forced its way inside, its claws carving the floor, its roar shaking the walls. Then another followed, then another, until 5 great beasts stood in the hall, their glowing eyes fixed on the humans and aliens inside. The students screamed in terror, some begged for their lives, others cursed the human for bringing doom. "This is your fault," one cried. "Ed, you have doomed us all." But the girl raised her hand calmly, her voice soft but steady. "They are not here to destroy, they are here to judge." The teacher turned to her sharply. "Judge," he repeated, "what madness do you speak?" The girl looked at him, her eyes calm. "They came because they sensed something new. They came because I stood without fear. They came to test if humans are prey or something more." The predators circled slowly, their heavy steps like drums, their roars low and constant. The cubs growled softly but stayed near the girl. The mother predator moved forward, lowering her head, her massive body brushing past the teacher. The girl stepped forward, her hand outstretched, her heart steady. She knew this was the moment. One of the new predators lunged forward suddenly, its jaws open wide. The alien shrieked in horror, but at the last moment the beast stopped, its nose inches from the girl's face, its breath hot, its eyes glowing. She did not move. She whispered, "I will not harm you." The predator blinked, then lowered its head, bowing slightly before stepping back. The hall filled with gasps. Some aliens fell to their knees, others shouted that it was sorcery. The teacher's staff shook in his grip, but then another predator moved forward, this one scarred, its eyes filled with rage. It roared directly at the girl. The sound made the walls shake. The students covered their ears. The cubs cried out, pressing close to her legs. The mother predator growled in warning, but did not stop the scarred beast. This was a test, a final test. The girl's knees trembled, her body shook under the force of the roar, but she held her ground, her voice rising above the storm. "I am not your enemy," she cried. "I will protect what you protect. I will respect what you respect. But I will never bow to fear." The predator stopped, its glowing eyes locked with hers. The hall silent once again, and then slowly, the scarred beast lowered its head. The other predators followed, bowing one by one until all of them stood still, their massive heads lowered before a single human girl. The aliens gasped, some in awe, some in terror. The teacher's face hardened, his voice low. "Today, the galaxy has changed. If predators bow to humans, then perhaps all of us must." But in the shadows of the hall, not every alien accepted what they saw. Some whispered of danger, some whispered of fear, some whispered that humans must be controlled before it was too late. The girl stood calm, her hand resting on the cubs. The predators bowed around her, the air heavy with power and silence. For the first time, aliens began to wonder if humans were not prey at all, but something far more dangerous. The predators bowed in silence around the girl, their great heads lowered, their glowing eyes calm. The hall still shook with the echoes of their roars, but now it was filled with something else, something the aliens had never felt before. Respect. The teacher, once so stern, stared at the human girl in disbelief. His staff slipped from his hands and clattered against the floor. "Never," he whispered. "Never in the history of this academy has such a thing happened. Predators do not bow, they destroy, and yet here they stand." The students huddled in fear. Some whispered prayers, some whispered curses, but all of them watched the girl with wide, trembling eyes. The girl lowered her hand slowly, her voice soft. "They bow not to me, but to what I showed them," she said. "I did not meet them with weapons. I met them with respect, and they saw it." Her words carried through the hall like quiet fire. Then the mother predator stepped closer, her massive head brushing near the girl. She nudged one of the cubs forward with her snout, pressing it toward the human. The cub climbed gently into her arms, its glowing eyes soft, its body relaxed. The aliens gasped, even more shocked. Predators had never allowed their young to be carried by another creature, not even of their own kind. The teacher muttered, "This is not strength of the body, this is strength of the heart, and it terrifies me more than claws or teeth." But the girl's mind drifted back to the forest, to the moment when she found the cubs trapped. She remembered the cruel metal jaws of a snare biting into the leg of one cub. She had freed it with her bare hands, cutting the trap apart with nothing but a small blade, her own arm scratched and bleeding as she worked. She had expected the mother to attack her, but instead the beast had stood still, watching her, judging her, and in that moment a bond was formed now, inside the academy. That bond was stronger than ever. "You saved them," the teacher whispered, almost as if reading her thoughts. "And so the mother spared you, and now all of us stand in awe of what that choice has created." The jealous alien who had mocked her earlier spat in anger, his voice sharp. "This is no miracle, this is luck, a trick of chance. Predators cannot be trusted, and neither can humans. This girl has brought danger into our world." But before he could say more, the scarred predator growled, its eyes glowing like fire. The alien stepped back in terror, stumbling against the wall, his words broken. The girl did not gloat. She did not smile. She only held the cub closer, her eyes calm, her voice steady. "Trust is not weakness. It is the strongest bond in the universe, stronger than claws, stronger than fear, stronger than hate." Her words cut through the hall, and for a moment, even the aliens who hated her felt the weight of truth in them. The teacher straightened, his voice carrying authority once more. "This lesson will not be forgotten, not in this academy, not in this world, but make no mistake. Word of this will spread far beyond these walls. The council will hear of it, and they will not ignore it." Fear spread across the room again, but it was not the fear of predators this time. It was the fear of change. The human girl stroked the cub gently, the mother predator watching with calm eyes. The other predators forming a circle of silence around her, and high above, in the council chambers orbiting far away among the stars, whispers already began. A message had been sent, a story carried on every channel. Predators bowed to a human. For the galaxy, it was more than a story. It was a warning. Aliens who had laughed at humans now trembled. Others began to plot. Others began to fear. And in the academy hall, the girl stood quietly, unaware of how her act of kindness would soon shake the galaxy itself. Far above the academy, in the great orbiting chambers of the Galactic Council, the news spread like fire. Glowing screens replayed the scene again and again, the human girl standing calm as predators bowed around her. Council members from dozens of species argued with raised voices. Some shouted that humans were dangerous, others whispered that they might be saviors, but none could ignore what they had seen. One elder slammed his clawed hand against the table. "If predators submit to humans, then humans are not prey, they are a threat." His eyes burned with fear. Another elder leaned forward, her voice cold. "A threat, yes, but perhaps also a tool. Imagine what wars could be won if such humans led our armies." The chamber roared with debate. The galaxy trembled with their words. Back in the academy, the teacher gathered the students, his stone face heavier than ever. "You must understand," he said, his voice slow. "The moment you return to your homes, the story will not stay here. You will tell it, your families will tell it, and soon every corner of the galaxy will know. Humanity is no longer invisible." The students murmured in fear. Some still glared at the girl with hate, others avoided her gaze. But all of them knew the teacher was right. The girl stood at the center of the hall, the cubs curled beside her feet, the mother predator watching with calm, glowing eyes. She did not speak, she only listened. Suddenly, the great doors of the academy slammed open. Guards of the council stormed inside, their armor shining, their weapons humming with energy. They spread quickly, surrounding the predators, surrounding the human. The students gasped. The teacher stepped forward. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded. The captain of the guards raised his voice. "By order of the Galactic Council, the human is to be taken for questioning. She is accused of disrupting natural law and endangering all species." The students whispered in shock. Some nodded in agreement, others muttered in fear. The girl's eyes remained calm. She stroked the cub gently, her voice soft. "If they fear me for trust, then they do not understand trust at all." The predators growled, the cubs hissed. The mother predator stepped forward, her body tense. The guards raised their weapons, their fingers tight, the room filled with electric tension. The teacher shouted, "Stop! If you fire, you will bring your own death." But the captain sneered, "Predators obey her, then they will obey us when she is gone." His words were sharp, his pride loud. The girl shook her head, her voice cutting through the fear. "No, they will not obey fear. They will only obey respect, and you have none." Before anyone could act, the scarred predator roared. Its massive body lunged forward. Guards stumbled back, weapons flashing, chaos filled the hall, but the girl raised both hands high, her voice rising above the storm. "Enough!" she cried. The predators froze, their glowing eyes locked on her. The guards lowered their weapons, trembling. The silence returned like a heavy weight. The council guards looked at each other, unsure, their captain's face twisted. With rage, "This cannot continue," he hissed. "A human must not hold such power. If predators bow to humans, then the galaxy itself will bow." The teacher's voice rose, sharp as thunder. "And perhaps it should." The words shook the hall. The guards hesitated. The students gasped, and the girl stood silent, her eyes filled with quiet strength. Outside the academy, the skies trembled with distant ships. The council had sent more than guards. Fleets hovered in orbit, watching, waiting, deciding whether to fear humanity, to use them, or to destroy them. The girl held the cubs close, her heart calm, but deep inside she knew the truth. This was no longer about her. This was about her entire species, and the galaxy had just realized that humans were no longer prey. The skies above the academy burned with the light of council warships. Their shadows stretched across the ground, their weapons ready, their engines humming like thunder. Inside the hall, the girl stood calm, the cubs close to her, the predators forming a living wall of muscle and claws around her. The captain of the guard stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Human, surrender. Come with us to the council. If you resist, we will burn this academy to ash." His soldiers raised their weapons. The sound filled the air like a storm. The teacher stood tall, his stone face hard. "If you strike her, you will start a war you cannot end." His words were low but heavy. The students trembled. Some whispered that the human must go. Others whispered that if she was taken, humanity would be enslaved forever. The hall was filled with fear. The girl bent down, placing her hand on the cubs, her voice soft. "I will not run. I will face them." The predators growled louder, their glowing eyes fixed on the guards. The mother predator stepped forward, her body shaking the floor, her roar tearing through the hall. The guards hesitated, their weapons shaking in their hands. For the first time, they felt like prey. Suddenly, the great screens above the hall flickered to life. The faces of the Galactic Council filled the room, the elders staring down, their voices cold and heavy. "Human," the High Elder said, his voice echoing like steel. "You have changed the balance of our galaxy. Predators bow to you, and that makes you dangerous." The chamber filled with murmurs. Some agreed, some shouted for her death, others called her a miracle. The girl raised her head, her voice calm but strong. "I do not command them with fear. I do not enslave them with chains. They chose to stand with me because I respected them." Her words cut through the noise like a blade. The High Elder narrowed his glowing eyes. "And if respect can turn predators into allies, then what will happen if humanity spreads that respect across the stars? Will entire armies bow to you? Will empires fall before your voice?" The silence that followed was heavy, dangerous. The teacher stepped forward, his staff in his hand, his voice steady. "Perhaps they should. For too long this council has ruled by fear. Maybe it is time you learn there is a power greater than fear." The chamber erupted with chaos. Some elders roared in anger, others in awe. Some demanded war, others whispered peace. The High Elder finally raised his hand, silencing them. "Human," he said, "you are free to leave this place, but know this. From this day forward, the galaxy will watch you. Some will fear you, some will seek you, some will try to destroy you. Your kind will never walk in shadows again." The screens went dark, the council vanished, but their warning remained heavy in the air. The guards lowered their weapons slowly. Their captain's face twisted in rage, but he could not disobey the council's final word. He turned sharply, leading as soldiers away. The students sat frozen in silence, their eyes wide, their hearts pounding. They had witnessed something that would be told for generations. The girls stroked the cubs. The predators bowed one last time before turning back toward the forest, their roars echoing into the distance, a promise that they would never forget. The teacher placed his heavy hand on her shoulder, his voice quiet. "You have done more than pass a test. You have changed what it means to be human in this galaxy." The girl looked at the empty doorway where the predators had left, her eyes calm, her heart steady. "I only showed them respect," she whispered, "and they showed me trust. That is all." But far beyond the academy, across the stars, her story spread like wildfire. Some called her a danger, some called her a hero, some called her a spark that could ignite wars. Others called her the beginning of peace, and in the quiet corners of the galaxy, where alien rulers whispered to one another, one question echoed again and again: if predators bow to humans, what else might bow to them?